Welcome to Splash Page. I'm Andrew, and I'm here with Sean. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great, man.
Well, we just watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 of The Legend of Vox Machina, and let's review this thing. Hey,
What a fantastic show. Honestly,
I know, right?
It's one of those things that I've been looking forward to it all week. Dropping 3 episodes at once, even at that kind of 25-minute length, you get almost a little movie out of it.
Yeah.
And these 3 episodes were fantastic.
I'm gonna be honest.
Lived up to my expectations.
I loved all 3 episodes, but I think if they did one a week, that first episode wouldn't have really held up on its own. I think you needed all 3 to tell that little story there.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, because the first one does kind of just set up the need to leave the city and potentially how the Briarwoods cursed some of the leadership in the city that they're in. As we know, the team initially is in kind of house arrest. So yeah, the whole episode taking place kind of in that area would have probably been a slower one.
Yeah.
Coming off of that original 3-episode arc.
Well, speaking of their keep, I enjoyed the moments in their keep. When we got to see Percy's little tinkering shop, his workshop over there, because they talked a lot about that in the show and about how he's got secret compartments and everything's kind of hidden and set up and in the perfect spots. And I also liked when they found that secret tunnel leading through to the outside. They got caught there.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, but I remember that being
instantly caught.
Yeah, immediately. I love how bad this team is. It really is the Dungeons & Dragons experience of planning and failing immediately. Yeah. Speaking of planning, jumping ahead to episode 6, I suppose it is, I love that planning scene so much. That was pure Dungeons & Dragons. Where they're like, how are we going to get Archibald out of the jail? And Scanlan's like, well, I could drink all these potions and just run in there and see what happens. And Keyleth is like, okay, what if I talk to the plants and the animals and then they distract the guards and then we could run in? And Grog's like, why don't we just go in head first and kill everyone? Like, what about Archie? We'll kill him too. How everyone just has their own stupid plans that you sit and discuss for like an hour to 45 minutes before they're like, what if we just do this obvious thing? And everyone else is like, oh yeah, that'll work too. Yeah.
I also love the animation they used there. It's almost like they were drawing it with crayon while talking about it, which is great.
Yeah.
One of the things when the team is in house arrest that I loved is they get separated after they get recaught. And we have Scanlan with Vex and Vax, and they basically are like, just don't bother us, we're doing something. So go make a sandwich. And later on in the episode, Scanlan says, don't look at me, I was eating a hoagie. And so I think it's official that Scanlan's actually from Pennsylvania, which is...
I did, on a character note, I really like that scene, because a lot of the times they're like, why are we together? And Vex and Vax talk about just escaping, because they're both very sneaky. He's a rogue. She's an archer, but she's still pretty sneaky, good dexterity. And I think in the show she's got passed without a trace, which gives them extra sneakiness. They could have escaped, but then they see Scanlan not knowing how to use butter. And they're just like, we can't go. We've got to... we have a responsibility to these idiots. Like, this whole team feels like pulled together because they feel like everyone else needs them. Every one of them. And they brought it up later when they spoke about who's the leader. They all feel like they're the leader of this team of idiots.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to keep it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the great things I noticed in this episode, in the first episode of this batch, was Vax asks if he's going to become a vampire because he was bitten by the Briarwoods. Yeah. And he looks over his shoulder at a window and he actually sees his reflection. So he then knows that at least at this point he is not a vampire.
Yeah, which I didn't notice in the first episode we saw Silas in, but he passed a mirror and also we didn't see his reflection. He didn't mention it, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, it was a good Easter egg. I guess we missed it last week, but we caught it this week, so... Yeah, and kind of the crux of the episode is around the fact that I guess it was Vax, when he was in the Briarwoods room, he stole the notebook or the diary of the Briarwoods, and Scanlan's trying to read it and translate it. And from there, basically, the Wraiths come to get the book back and kill our crew. And they come pretty close.
Yeah. I thought for a second they all died and we'd have to have some healing magic.
And it was great too. I mean, obviously we know Pike is struggling based on what we think might be a curse or maybe some internal conflict.
Well, yeah, Pike is struggling, but Keyleth suddenly is able to pull out her sunlight spell, which weakens the wraiths enough so that the rest of the team can kind of take him out. And honestly, I love that moment because we saw her try and fail to use sunlight earlier, and this is like that leveling up, learning new magic spells. But it's also, they pulled it into her character. Whenever she gets frightened or angry, that's when her spells seem to work the best, and when she kind of figures it out in that last minute helpless moment. Because the same thing happened with the dragon. She was frozen until Vex like snapped her out of it and she called down the lightning. And here the wraiths were almost going to kill all her friends, and she figured out that sunlight spell that kind of froze them all in their tracks so that everyone else can do their badassery.
Right. So we're ending this episode where the group decides that they're going to go and help Percy on his quest to kill the Briarwoods, and Pike decides that she cannot go with them because she has to figure out what's going on with her powers.
Well, Pike couldn't go with them because she had to film Blind Spot. Well, that's what happened in the game. She had to leave for a while and she wasn't there for this. But that would have been weird to pull into the show.
So I guess you're saying that in the campaign, in the D&D game, she was not there during that campaign. So rather than trying to write her into it, they gave her kind of a side quest so that she's still busy, off the board a little bit, and the rest of the team could continue as they likely did in the actual game.
Well, with her filming television shows all over the place, they did kind of write in a storyline where she went to the church and she did all that kind of stuff, and then occasionally she'd be able to come back for like an episode. She had like a divine avatar, they called it, when she was Skyping in the couple times she could make it. So I think that's what they were calling to when she told Grog, like, if you really reach for me, I'll be there. There might be a moment where she's able to kind of divinely avatar herself into a battle here or there, which could be kind of cool to see. I hope it looks exactly like a Skype screen.
Yeah. So we jump into episode 5, and they're going shopping at Gilmore's.
Always fun.
And just buying a lot of fun stuff, all of which could kill vampires, which is so great because then we see later in the episode it all falls off a cliff and they lose it all.
And that was always Vexelia's thing about arguing with shopkeepers about prices. That could take 20 minutes for her in-game to figure out the price of a thing, to the point where everyone's like, can we just not buy anything ever again, please?
Yeah, can we just leave? Shopping. Shopping is a big pain in the ass. Every DM hates it.
It was her favorite thing in the world. She loved shopping and haggling.
That's true, yeah. Write quests with very few pawn shops or armor shops or magic shops. Just have them find it on the road.
I did like that moment.
That's what I did.
I did like that moment of, give us all the holy water you got. And he's like, you're looking at it. You're not getting a gallon of holy water. You got one vial. Stop.
Yep. Yep. So they go to leave the town, and they practically literally steal horses and a cart to get out of there, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And then we get kind of this fun chase scene, which I believe, Andrew, you said was not in the campaign.
I think they fought something else on the road, but I don't think they fought half vampire wolf creatures at all.
Yeah, I looked up what these guys are. I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think they were displacer beasts, because they were kind of like wolfish, pantherish things with tentacles and whatnot. So a lot of fun there. Great fight. I loved Grog going, I'll get the big one. And they're like all the same exact size.
I do think in the game they were being chased by banshees and they had to leave the cart behind to go over a bridge. That was an ongoing thing. They kept losing. Anytime they got a horse, they lost their horse. So they once again lost all their horses. And we got to see the first use of Scanlan's dimension door when he was about to go off the cliff there. He dimension doored back up and landed on his giant purple hand.
Got it. All right. Yeah, I was wondering how he did that. I saw the purple hand, obviously, but didn't know he actually used dimension door and then.
That's what I'm assuming. He used dimension door a lot, and he kind of seemed to disappear and miss the rope arrow. So.
Gotcha. And to that point, when that happens, when the cart goes over, the horses die a brutal death. And it sounds like that's not uncommon for this campaign of the storyline. But even more importantly, the journal or the diary also went off the cliff, and it is returned back to Lady Briarwood via half of a displacer beast.
Yes.
So now the book is back. The crew continues on their quest and just barely gets to Whitestone. And we see that there are 7 townsfolk hung, painted, decorated, dressed like our crew. Obviously as a scare tactic and a kind of note to the group that they know they're coming.
Such a creepy visual and so iconic and weird and uncomfortable. And while I'm glad they put it in the show, I'm still uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. And like I would assume that Matt Mercer came up with that, right? And like just how dark that is, like holy shit.
Yeah, it was intense.
So now we'll jump into the last episode of this batch, episode number 6, which starts with a cameo from Matt Mercer. We saw him in each one of the first 3 episodes. I didn't notice him in episodes 4 or 5. Maybe when I go back and rewatch it, I will see him in those. However, he is one of the people in the Resistance. He's wearing an eye patch, and he gets picked up by a giant in his head, kind of slapped and splat everywhere. So that was a lot of fun, and it's always good to be able to pick up on those little Easter eggs.
Yeah, that last episode was the big dragon fight of this arc. That was the fun. Pick up the Resistance, make your stupid plans, go inside, watch your plans fall apart. We got to see them fight with a door again. And just that Three Stooges moment of Percy going, screw this, I'm going to go in through the window, and then just falling to the ground and saying, I fell out of the window. Yeah.
That was great. Yeah, I thought I saw that too. I was like, more door jokes. Obviously, now that you told me that was a big thing in the actual campaign, I keep an eye out for that.
It's not a door, it's a thing it happened. Evil. Yeah.
Exactly. Also, something I do know from the campaign is Bad News showed up, which I believe is Percy's like bigger gun, almost similar to like a Gatling gun or like a really high caliber. Bigger
it's got some more power behind it, and it's got a handful of names sketched into the barrel.
And when he kills one of the people whose name's on the barrel, you see it disappear from the gun, which I thought was really
Stonefell, cool. I think his name was. Yeah. That became that was obviously a storyline there too, but I'm excited to see how this continues on.
Yeah, for sure. I think Percy is such an interesting character. He's so different than the rest. Although they all do kind of have their spotted histories, the fact that we get to see so much of Percy's up front, and he also, while killing said evil guy, he had the plague mask on and started kind of smoking again. So me, as someone who didn't watch the campaign, I still don't know what that is, but I know it's badass.
Well, I like that we got to see him take that plague mask off, because those were not his eyes. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Completely black eyes, which was very cool as well. Quick little fun Dungeons and Dragons note as well is when Vex is shooting guards with her arrows. There's a quick scene of her running by and grabbing one of the arrows back, out of the person. And it's funny when you shoot arrows in Dungeons and Dragons, after a fight, you can say that you're going to look for arrows or get your arrows back. And if you do that, you only get half of your arrows. So earlier in the scene, I think she shoots two arrows at once, and it's followed by her just taking one out of the dead body. Yeah, that's a good
catch. That's always when you get to 3 scenes later in the game, and you're like, oh, god damn it, I forgot to pick up my arrows. Can we just say I picked up my arrows?
Right. And another awesome thing about this fight was when Scanlan was kind of captured. They grabbed him and surprised the rest of the group. He used some kind of duplication spell or illusion, and it made it look like he was standing next to them while he was actually being held at knife point. And they actually let him go and attack the illusion, and he ran away, which was awesome. And the second any viewer saw that, they're like, oh, that's definitely a trick. But it was really fun to see that being brought to life via animation.
I like their use of spells in the show. and it's very clever and quick and kind of what you would do. Like, oh, I'm in a no-win scenario. What weird spell do I have?
Yeah. Another just real quick joke that I caught on was, I believe it was Vex who said, we'll do this plan and that plan, and I think it was Scanlan who said essentially, like, splitting up the party never works.
Yeah.
Which again is another pain in the ass thing. I always feel bad for DMs when you want to split the party, and it's like, oh, now we got to hear about their storyline as I sit here and like.
I don't know if this is a in-joke to Campaign 2 or not, but there's a moment where Grog says, I hope we get there before the backdoor team gets there. And there was a whole moment in Campaign 2 where they were going to split the party, and half of them were going to go in the back door, and they called themselves the backdoor team. And they're like, well, what are we calling the team that goes in the front? And I think it was Sam in character in Campaign 2 that named the team that went in the front Full Frontal. So there was the backdoor team in Full Frontal. I don't know. I assume that's calling to that.
Yeah.
To that. Yeah.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah, there's been a lot of season Campaign 2 little Easter eggs in here as well, which is fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, and then the last thing we'll leave you guys on is obviously the big reveal for show watchers, particularly that Percy's younger sister, who we had been told was killed when he escaped in the first place as a child, is still alive, and it looks to be that she's actually a Briarwood, or being treated as such. I don't know if that's actually the case. We only got a single scene, but it doesn't look like she's ready to run out and help her brother, but at the same time, you could tell that there's conflict.
Yeah, we'll find out next week their relationship, and that's going to be exciting to watch too. But Cassandra is alive.
So now that we're halfway through the season, I believe there are 2 weeks left and another 6 episodes in this first season.
Yeah.
Looking forward to kind of seeing how they route this out. And honestly, Amazon at this point, just greenlight it for seasons 3 and 4 and 5 already. Like, don't waste our time.
I'm going to be honest, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because as someone that spent so many hours watching the campaign and loving that story, of course I'm going to like this. I'm really happy to hear that you are also enjoying it as someone that hasn't spent all that time with these characters, that it works on that level.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It reminds me a lot of how we kind of instantly fell in love with Arcane as well.
Yes.
Because we didn't know anything about that. It just looked like some cool animation. We're like, screw it, let's watch it. And it was amazing. So, more and more of these shows are coming out and are just blowing me away.
Yeah, they're killing it. I will say I'm excited for one thing coming up, and I know a lot of people online have been talking about it and getting excited for it and hoping they do it, but Scanlan seems to have just learned polymorph, and that leads to some very exciting sneaking around in the very near future if they actually go for it.
Cool. We'll have to keep our eyes out for it. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate you watching. Let us know what Easter eggs we missed, as well as just your thoughts on this show. Who's your favorite character? How excited are you for next week? And would you or would you not sleep with Scanlan? Right?
I don't think you have a choice most of the time when it comes to Scanlan.
Cool. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm Sean. That's Andrew. As always, take it easy, YouTube.
Good night.